Hello and welcome to the lesson. Today I'll show you a couple of ways to set size in CSS. We'll start by setting size in pixels. Notice the letters E, F, and G. I'd like to set the font size to 12 pixels for the whole body element. I'll add the font size property between the curly brackets and set the value to 12px. Remember that pixels are always abbreviated px. After refreshing the page, we can see the letters are now smaller. What exactly has happened? Take a look at this picture. It represents a large close-up of the letters E, F, and G with the font size of 12 pixels. The value of 12 pixels tells the browser to draw text which is exactly 12 pixels large. This is a very accurate method of specifying font size. Another frequently used unit is em. This concept might be a bit more difficult to understand, so let's demonstrate it with an example. Notice two same-size paragraphs in our newly opened document. The font size of the entire page is set to 12 pixels. 1em is always equal to the font size that is currently set for a given element. In our case, the font size of the element is 20 pixels. I'll add the font size property to the first paragraph and set it to 1em. I'll also add the font size property to the second paragraph, but this time the value will be 20 pixels. After I refresh the page, we can see that the font size of the text hasn't changed at all. In this case, the size of 1em is equal to 20 pixels. Why? Because 1 times 20 pixels equals 20 pixels. Using the same logic, 2em is equal to 40 pixels, and so on. To demonstrate, I'll rewrite both values and refresh the page. As you can see, the size of both paragraphs is exactly 40 pixels. The third unit we're going to look at is percentage points. The body element has its font size set to 40 pixels and contains two paragraphs. If I set the font size of any of the paragraphs in percentage points, it will become a percentage of the parent element. Let's try it in the browser. I'll add the font size property to the second paragraph and set the value to 50%. That's equal to exactly 1/2 of the 40 pixels we've set for the parent body element. After refreshing the page, we see that the text became smaller in size. But how can we be sure the text is really 20 pixels large? I'll also set the font size property to the first paragraph and set the value to 20 pixels. After refreshing the page, we see that both paragraphs are the same size. The font size can be also set in millimeters, centimeters, or inches. However, these units are not recommended. Why not? It's because users use various screen resolutions. A font set to 20 centimeters will be a different size on screens with different resolutions. Using the units I've shown you in this lesson is not necessarily limited only to font sizes. They are also used for specifying widths, heights, and other dimensions. I'll show you how to specify a width by using the three most frequently used units. You can see three p elements on the page. Notice that width properties haven't been added yet. Let's start by setting the size in pixels. I'll add the width property to the first paragraph and set the value to 200 pixels. I'm telling the browser to draw a p element exactly 200 pixels wide. I'd like to specify the width of the second paragraph with the em unit. I'd like the paragraph to be of the same width as the first one. But how do I find out how many pixels is equal to 1em? Again, the rule that 1em equals the font size set for the element applies. In our case, the font size of the element is 20 pixels. To make the second paragraph as wide as the first, I have to set its width to 10em. After refreshing the page, we can see that both paragraphs are equal in width. It's important to realize that the width of the second paragraph depends on the value of the font size property. For example, if I change it to 10 pixels and do a refresh, the width of the paragraph will decrease. Finally, we'll learn how to specify width in percents. Percents are always calculated based on the width of the parent element. In this case, it's the body element, which stretches horizontally through the whole page. In this case, it's somewhat less than 1,000 pixels. 200 pixels corresponds to about 20% of that. After refreshing the page, we can see that even the third paragraph is now the same size, except for a small deviation caused by rounding. Obviously, the same principles apply to height and other dimensions. Thank you for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the next lesson.